Hey, good morning, everybody. This is Mr. Ainsworth, and we're going to get into the third type of multiplying polynomials together. We're going to take some binomials, which are, a polynomial with two terms, and multiply it by a trinomial, a polynomial with three terms. I call them by two by threes, okay? And then at the end here, in the second half, we'll do a three by three, a trinomial times a trinomial. All it takes is a couple basic skills. All we use is distributive property, and when we have to remember and recall that when you multiply variables, you add exponents. So for example, x times x would be equal to x squared. If you take x times x cubed, all right, well, you get x to the fourth. If you take x squared times x cubed, you get x to the fifth because 2 plus 3 is 5. So what you have to remember is when you multiply like variables, very simple, you add the exponents, an exponent property, okay? And it's really simple. You just got to get good at it. So this is your key concept right here that we're going to use. So notice I put that in red up here at the very top. And again, going back to the previous videos here, the type 2, we talked about how to multiply binomials, okay? And then in type 1, in the first video, I talked about how to multiply monomials times other polynomials. So I call them 1 by 2s or 1 by 3s or 1 by 4s. It's just simple distributive property relying on one key concept. When you multiply like variables, you add the exponents. It's very, very simple. So you just have to get good at it, apply the skill multiple times so you can work with the variable expressions here. And then when we get to other equation solving techniques, we can use these techniques. All right, so it's just basic skill building. That's all it is. All right, so again, when you watch a video, and I've talked about this before, one key thing that remember is you go at your own pace. Very, very important. I see too many people use videos improperly and they just copy and they never pause, play, or rewind and they don't go at their own pace and they don't learn a darn thing. So go at, okay, your own pace, which means you need to pause the video. Okay, rewind, pause, rewind, listen to it again, and then start playing again. So again, use it properly, and then you're going to learn something. Okay, this is exactly how I approach videos, because believe it or not, even though I'm 57 years old, been teaching 33 years, I still learn things from other people. And when I do, when I'm listening to someone, but I don't get it, I just rewind and listen to it a few times, go at my own pace, and I learn something. All right, so use it wisely. All right, so let's get started. Here we go. We're going to take a look at a 2 by 3, a binomial times a trinomial. And all it takes is distributive property. Okay, we want to show all steps, develop good habits. Here we go. We're going to take, let's do this in two colors, okay? So first, I got to take my first term, and I have to distribute three times into the trinomial. So here we have x times x squared, which would be x cubed. Again, x times x squared gives you x cubed. When I multiply x times negative 4x, so x times negative 4x, obviously that's negative 4x squared, so I got a minus 4x squared here. Now I have this third column over here for side work, and if you need it, use it if you're learning. All right, people that know what they're doing don't need this, but if you do, great. Then we're going to take x times negative 5. All right, x times negative 5 is just negative 5x, so minus 5x here. Okay, switch colors. Now we got to distribute the second term. Now the second term is the plus 3, right? And so I got to distribute that. I got to distribute into the trinomial, which means I need to multiply three times. Now 3 times x squared is 3x squared. Really important. You want to line up like terms. So let's put that in red on the left-hand side. So line up like terms. What does that mean? Okay, same exponents. So keep that in mind. So when I distribute and I multiply 3 times x squared, I'm going to multiply it with the squares. Because as you guys know, and you know me, we were talking about this in class and laughing a lot actually. we can only add terms with the same exponent. So I'm going to line it up here with the other squares because you can only combine squares with squares as we were talking about in class. And 3 times a minus 4x or 3 times negative 4x is a negative 12x. So line up the x's there. And then 3 times negative 5 is negative 15. And then at this point, you want to add vertically because you can only add like terms. So this is equal to x cubed, the third degree term here. And then I've got a negative 4x squared plus 3x squared. Or you can switch it around, 3x squared minus 4x squared, and that's a minus x squared here. Negative 4 plus 3 is a negative 1, that's why. And remember, when you're adding like terms, the exponent does not change. Okay, let me write that down. So key principle here. When adding like terms, okay, the exponent does not change. I talked about that in class. When you add squares with squares, you get squares. Cubes with cubes, you get cubes. Okay, so keep that in mind. When adding like terms, exponents do not, okay, change. Very common mistake people make. All right, squares with squares gives you squares. Cubes with cubes gives you cubes. When you add x's with other x's, you get x's. They're called like terms for a reason. It's kind of like adding 2 apples with 3 apples, you get 5 apples. You don't get 5 square apples or 5 oranges, okay? You get the same type of term. So think about it that way. And then right here on this next one here, I got a minus 5x, so I'm subtracting 5x's. I'm subtracting 12 more x's. I'm subtracting 17 x's in total. And then I got the minus 15. There's your constant. And then, of course, you got to take a look at whether it's in descending order or not. And I have third degree, second degree, first degree. Remember, when you don't see an exponent, it's 1. So that's called descending order. And when I say descending order here, I'm talking about high, all right, to low, all right. And if you look at the polynomial up there, it starts off with the highest degree of 3, and then second degree, first degree, and then 0 degree. The constants are 0 degree, all right. And if you need to show a little side work, do it. You're multiplying. And again, when you're multiplying variables, you add exponents. So that's a key concept. Multiplying like variables. Oops, VAR, multiplying like variables, you simply add exponents. Very, very simple. Just a little key concept here. And if you just learn the basics, this is easy. And believe it or not, this has some applications later on. So we got to get good at the basic skills before we do any high order thinking here, because you just got to know that. Okay, take some basic skills. All right, so we're trying to build up some skills. So let's try it here. Now here's where you pause the video and try it on your own. All right, so pause, if I can spell that correctly. All right, pause the video, and when you're ready, hit play and check. All right, and check with me, obviously. All right, go for it. Okay, now I'm going to assume that you did the right thing and you already did this problem. So here we go. Let's check your work. X times 8x squared is 8x cubed. Okay, next one. X times the second term, x times negative x is negative x squared. And then x times negative 9, okay, you got to multiply it 3 times, is negative 9x. Let's switch colors again. You got to distribute through the second term 3 times, because it's a trinomial, so you got to multiply 3 times. And you got to line up like terms, like I said earlier in the first one. So negative 5 times 8x squared is a negative 40x squared. So line it up with the square. And then negative 5 times a negative x gives you a positive 5x. And then negative 5 times a negative 9 gives you positive 45. And now you go ahead and you add like terms. Just add vertically. That's the easiest way to think about it. You have 8x cubed first. Let me see. Here we're subtracting 1x squared, subtracting 40 more squares. You're subtracting 41 squares in all. Again, when you combine squares with squares, you get squares. The exponents do not change. Okay, that's a no-no. All right, and then here on the third term here, a minus 9x plus 5x. Well, reverse it, 5x minus 9x. Well, that means you're negative, right? 5 minus 9 is a negative number, so you get negative 4x, and then plus the constant 45. And again, descending order, third degree, second degree, first degree, and then a constant. It's called descending order. And that's all there is to it. And believe it or not, the 3 by 3 is a try times a try, trinomial times a trinomial, is done the same way, but we're going to multiply 9 times total instead of only 6 times. Okay, so let's do it. I'll model it here first, and then you can try it next. All right, and if you need to do a little side work, you do it. All right, so here we go. So we're going to do this in three colors, actually. All right, so we're going to take the first term, and I have to distribute it 3 times. Okay, so x squared times 7x squared. So x squared times 7x squared. That's what you got to be thinking. Well, x squared times x squared is x to the fourth, so I get 7x to the fourth here. So my first product is 7x to the fourth. Now I can distribute to the second term. I got to take x squared times a negative 5x. That's what you got to be thinking in your mind. And experienced people don't do side work, okay? They just do it, okay? But I'm obviously teaching, and I'm trying to teach good basic skills. So, I'm writing it on the right-hand side, this third column, and I'll put my results in the middle. So here, x times x squared gives you x cubed. So I get a negative 5x cubed here. So minus 5x cubed. And then the third product, again, you're distributing through a trinomial. So you got to multiply the 3 times because it's a trinomial. There's 3 terms in there, right? So x squared times negative 3, x squared times negative 3, that's simple. Negative 3x squared. So minus 3x squared. All right, that's your first distribution. Second distribution, let's change colors just for funsies. And then let's take this second term here, this negative 2x, and distribute. All right, here we go. Okay, negative 2x times 7x squared. So negative 2x times negative 7x squared. Not negative 7x squared. Let me change that. Sorry, I misread it. Start over. Okay, so negative 2x times 7x squared. There we go. So negative 2 times 7 is negative 14. X times x squared gives you x cubed. So line up like terms. Cubes with cubes. Okay, next one. Negative 2x times negative 5x. So you just, this is what you're doing. But again, you got to think it, right? Negative 2x times negative 5x is positive 10x squared. So plus 10x squared. And my last product here, because again, this is a trinomial, right? So negative 2x times negative 3. And that's positive 6x. So plus 6x. Okay, third color here. And I'm going to use, so you can see it easily. Green's fine. Okay, I got to take the 1 here, the 1. Let's go green this time. I got to take the 1 and distribute it 3 times. Oh, this is going to be hard. Multiplying by 1. Woohoo! All right, 1 times 7x squared is 7x squared. So line up the squares. And then 1 times negative 5x is obviously minus 5x. And then that's the second one. And then the third one, 1 times negative 3, that's obviously a minus 3. And then you simply multiply. Add like terms. So you combine like terms, you bring down the minus 7x to the fourth. And then here, if you're subtracting 5 cubes, and then you're subtracting 14 cubes, well, you're subtracting 19 cubes in all, right? So again, the degree and the exponent does not change, okay? So exponent does not change when adding. All right, you're adding like terms, okay? So it's just like adding apples with apples, you get apples. Oranges with oranges, you get oranges. Cubes with cubes, you get cubes. Squares with squares, you get squares. So speaking of squares, check this out. I want to start off with a positive. So 7x squared plus 10x squared gives you 17x squared. And 17 minus 3 is 14. So we have 14 squares remaining. Okay? Again, squares combined with squares give you squares. 6x minus 5x gives you 1x. Okay? 1x or just x. And then you got a minus 3. And again, that's in descending order. So fourth degree, third degree, second degree, first degree, and a constant. And there we go. Now at this point, you should be getting good. Okay, so now pause the video. Okay, pause, and play when you're ready. Okay, all right, so I'm assuming that you did the right thing. All right, and you actually tried this. Okay, so let's do this in three colors again. So x squared times 7x squared is 7x to the fourth. Again, x squared times 7x squared gives you 7x to the fourth because you're adding exponents. X squared times a negative 5x. You don't have to write this out on the side. I'm just showing my thinking because that's what teachers do. All right, and you get negative 5x third. So negative 5x cubed, or negative 5x to the third. And then you got to take x squared and multiply it through 3 times. So x squared times negative 3, well, that's negative 3x squared. That's the easiest part. Okay, switch colors. Now we got to distribute the second term 3 times. So here we go. So negative 2x times 7x squared. Well, I get negative 14x cubed. And you got to line up the cubes. So negative 14x cubed here. And then distribute again. So negative 2x times the second term, which is negative 5x. And that's 10x squared. And again, you're lining up the squares together. And then the last one, negative 2x times 3. So notice that I'm multiplying 3 times on the side work here. And that's positive 6x. So if it helps you writing down your thinking on the right-hand side, then do it. You know, do whatever it takes. Okay? And now, oh, you know what? I just noticed something. I'm a silly guy. Okay, it's the same thing. Oh my goodness. Okay, so again, now I forgot to change the polynomial, and I just didn't even notice that. That is so funny. Kind of a silly guy. Okay, so this is just good practice, right? Okay, so then when you multiply 1 by everything, okay, you get 7x squared minus 5x minus 3, and then when you add, you get the same thing as we did before. All right, 7x to the fourth. I got to modify my lesson here. I forgot to modify the number or the polynomial. Silly me. So minus 19x cubed. Okay, 7 to 10 is 17. Minus 3 is 14. X squared. 6 minus 5 is 1. So 1x or x, and then minus 3. All right, so this is really, really good to practice. All right, so hopefully you did that without looking, right? Without looking. Holy cow. Now, guess what? Now it's your turn. These are different. They sure are. Okay, so now what you guys need to do is actually try this and then try it, okay, and check in instructor's notes, okay, and check instructor's notes online in Canvas. Okay, and then of course, if you're in class, obviously we're going to be checking with me and with each other. All right, so hopefully that helped you out there. Look at that. All right, we did some 2 by 3s, okay, some binomials times trinomials, and we did some 3 by 3s. All right, trinomial times a trinomial. All right, this is Mr. Ainsworth here. Hopefully that helped you out, and I'll see you in class. You guys take care. Bye-bye.